Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. According to Thursday, August 7's recap of The Young and the Restless, Lily Winters will think about a Kane Ashby spy scheme and a phony romance. Here's what fans may anticipate from Sally Spectra's employment offer to Audra Charles. At Crimson Lights, Lily will make it plain to Devin Winters that she no longer views Kane as a monster, effectively ending their relationship. Devin would concede, however, that Kane's enduring affection for Lily appears genuine, particularly in light of the fact that he was willing to give his life for her in Nice. Victor Newman will mention that Lily might be the only person Kane would confide in when he gets there. Victor will advise Lily to give Kane hope that they have a future and encourage him to share his intentions as they all want him out of town. Victor will encourage Lily to think about it even though she will object to the concept. Following Victor's departure, Lily will discuss with Devin how, although her initial reaction was to reject Victor's plan, she gradually began to consider whether or not she should. Devin is concerned that Kane would figure out Lily's plan and realize it's not safe to betray him. Lily will, however, believe that the risk might be worthwhile. Claire Newman will work with Kyle Abbott of Newman Media to find a buyer for Adam Newman's former flat. In an attempt to win Adam over, Kyle would even make hints about Jabot purchasing advertising space. To avoid upsetting Victor, Adam will decline the apartment offer, pointing out that he's at a good position with him. When Victor realizes what's happening, he will insist that the apartment transaction doesn't go through. Claire won't think they have anything more to discuss and will stomp off with Kyle, even though Victor will want to talk to her alone. Before updating Sally on Victor's most recent relocation, Audra will get a gin and tonic at Society. On Thursday's YNR episode, Audra will vent to Sally because Victor terminated Vibrante and expects her to reimburse him for the money he invested in it. Audra knew she was playing a risky game when she got involved in all of this, as Sally will point out. Since Kyle and Victor haven't told Nate Hastings about the seduction plan, Audra will believe she's safe, despite Sally's concerns that her connection with him will end badly. In Nice, there will also be some discussion about Audra and Kyle sharing a kiss, but she will continue to believe that her relationship with Nate is safe. Sally will recommend making it appear as though Audra gave up and left since she will be more concerned about how she will explain losing Vibrante. Additionally, since Audra may wind up managing Abbott Communications if Billy Abbott returns to Chancellor, Sally will give her a position there. Sally is confident Billy would agree to locate Audra a place, even if she remains COO. Audra will be grateful for the offer, but she will prefer to make her own decisions. Audra won't appear to heed to Sally's attempts to warn her against any vindictive Kyle actions. He will attempt to persuade her that they ought to go somewhere else as soon as Claire and Kyle enter. Claire will march over and confess that she is aware that Victor hired Audra for the breakup plot because she will insist on facing Audra instead. Claire will force Audra to acknowledge that she was lying when she claims that Kyle left his phone charger in her sleeping automobile. However, Audra will eventually accuse Kyle of coming on to her after pointing out that he was in her room. Kyle will act as though Audra doesn't know when to concede defeat and say that's bullshit. Before he leaves, Audra will suggest that she is the woman he truly desires by bringing up her past with Kyle and attempting to raise some questions in Claire's mind. Kyle will implore Claire to tell him that she didn't believe any of that once they are alone. Claire will turn to face Kyle and look at him as if she's trying to figure out what Audra said. While Adam returns, he will question why Victor is occupying himself with the Abbotts while Kane poses a greater danger. Victor will acknowledge that he is putting Kane and the Abbotts at odds, therefore he intends to use Kane to destroy the Abbotts. Adam will support the approach and decide to prioritize his own family even if he will not like the thought of Jack Abbott's collapse. Victor will know what he's doing and will call Kane to arrange a meeting, but Adam will remind out that all of this could drive Claire even farther away. According to teasers for The Young and the Restless, Victor will keep moving all the chess pieces, so tune in for more updates on his most recent tactic. In a world full of dishonest people, Victor Newman had always thought that loyalty was the only thing that mattered. However, nothing could have prepared him for the kind of treachery that destroyed all of his faith in Lily Winters. The enemy was never meant to be her. Lily, in his opinion, had always been composed, deferential, and astute, a lady who understood how to fulfill her responsibilities inside Newman Enterprises without going overboard. However, everything changed when Victor discovered the truth. Lily had been working behind his back, giving Kane sensitive information, assisting him in subverting Victor's schemes from within, and, worst of all, daring to make him look foolish. Not all of it was business. It was intimate. She had been taken into Victor's world, treated like family, and given access that not even his own children had, yet she sacrificed everything for Kane Ashby, a man Victor had always hated for his conceit, carelessness, and betrayal. Now, as Victor paced the dim floors of the Newman Ranch, his breathing became more labored as he recalled Kane's smug smile, Lily's kind reassurances, and the way she had lied to him while staring him in the eye. The treachery was profound, and Victor sensed his authority eroding. Even though he wasn't a man who let anger control him, the monster within of him was fighting its way out of its cage tonight. Whiskey trembled in the glass as he poured himself a drink, but it hardly made contact with his lips before he threw it across the room, the sound reverberating throughout the large, quiet mansion. Earlier in the evening, when Nikki sensed that Victor's attitude was changing into something colder and darker, she attempted to step in, but Victor had shut himself in, refusing to talk or to calm down. His mind went awry. What had Lily handed Kane, exactly? For what duration had they been plotting? Had they been giggling all along behind his back? He was tempted to call her, yell, and demand answers when he picked up his phone, but he thought of a long-ago advice from his father, never let your adversary hear you suffer. Yes, he would question her, but not on the phone or via text. He would show her the price of treachery. Victor Newman rarely made threats. People learned to take him seriously when he did. He had ruined businesses, tarnished reputations, and even planned disappearances. Now, Lily Winters would experience firsthand what it felt like to betray Genoa City's most powerful man. Beneath the anger that raged in his belly, there was sadness that he dared not reveal. He really had liked Lily. He recognized and admired her knowledge, strength, and progress. Perhaps that's why it was so painful. You expect to be stabbed by your adversaries, but when someone you trust buries the dagger in your back, it leaves a permanent wound. Something inside Victor exploded the instant he realized Lily was being dishonest about her covert meetings with Kane, the faked contracts, and the leaked ideas. He had given her every chance, even endorsing her when others weren't sure. And she paid him back in this way. As he considered Kane, his eyes narrowed. That man has always caused trouble, snaking his way into power like a smiling snake. Lily had heard Victor's repeated warnings that Kane was unreliable. Despite everything that Newman had given her, she fell for him once more like a moth to flame. Victor balled his fists. She could fall with Kane if that was her preference. He intended to ruin Kane in every aspect of his life, not just in business. He would uncover every secret, burn every bridge, and unearth every skeleton Kane had hidden. Lily, well, she would also be harmed. She would lose her peace, her job, and her reputation. He would ensure that she would always remember what she had done to him. Security guards tried to meet Victor, but he hardly acknowledged them as he stormed out of the house. His pace was unrelenting, his gaze furious. No one could stop the tempest that was brewing inside of him. Ignoring the staff's gasps at his arrival, he drove directly to Chancellor Winters and stormed through the doors like a man possessed. He insisted on seeing Lily, and when she finally showed up, shocked but calm, her face changed the moment she saw him. There was no hesitation, no warmth. Just rage. Victor's voice was low but shaking with hardly restrained wrath as he said, "You lied to me. You don't think I'd know? Do you believe I'm a fool?" Lily opened her mouth to say something, but he interrupted her with a wave of his hand before moving closer and meeting her gaze. For Kane, you betrayed me? After I've given you everything? Her remorse flickered in her eyes as she averted her gaze, but it only made him more enraged. He growled, I trusted you like a daughter. And you took advantage of me. You are no different from the others. Feeble. Ignorant. And now you pay. Lily tried to maintain her position, but there was a lot of silence. She said, I made a mistake. But threatening me won't make anything better. Victor's laugh was cruel and hollow. Repair it? Lily, I have no interest in making any repairs. Vengeance interests me. Victor pushed closer, but she took a step back, clearly startled. You chose him, now suffer with him. You let Kane know that I'm coming for him, he muttered. And I won't stop at litigation or boardroom battles if you two get in my way once more. I'll bury you both. Victor, this isn't you, Lily's voice broke as she added, I'll make sure your names are wiped out of this city like you never existed. Don't pretend you know me, he yelled. You were fully aware of what this was. When you crossed me, you were aware of who I was. You believed that love would keep you safe? When trust is absent, love is meaningless. He left a trail of tension that strangled the room as he hurried out, saying, and you threw that away. It wasn't over, though. Not even close. Victor used all of his resources the following day. Private detectives. Media connections. Legal teams. A smear story concerning Kane's purported offshore activities was his first subtle attack. Then, investors connected to Newman abruptly withdrew. Overnight, Kane's company's stock fell. No one answered the phone. They made deals. Lily also learned that her name had been connected to the controversy just as she was trying to limit the damage. Her inbox overflowed with emails. The board requested justifications. Customers paused. She was powerless to stop Victor, not an outside rival, from destroying the empire she had helped create. Every night, Victor sipped his drink and watched everything unfold with icy enjoyment, waiting for the last piece to fall apart. However, beneath the anger and retaliation, there was still a hurt guy who had once thought that loyalty could exist and that some people may be different. And as soon as Lily decided on Kane, that hope was gone. This was no longer a commercial matter. It was war. And in his entire life, Victor Newman had never lost a war. A crucial turning point that reveals the depths of Victor's mental instability, his propensity for vengeance, and the devastating nature of his love is his spiral into madness after Lily betrays him. The ferocity of his response, threatening to murder her and swore revenge on Kane, shows a guy who has lost all self-control and is driven by anger and a perverted sense of justice. His breakdown is a turning moment that alters relationships, reveals hidden weaknesses, and creates the conditions for future conflict in addition to being a personal collapse. Examining Victor's psyche, his relationship with Lily, the significance of betrayal in his life, and the wider ramifications of his threats are all essential to comprehending the gravity of this moment. Given his past, Victor's strong response to Lily's treachery is not wholly surprising. Victor has always been a man who expects complete devotion and frequently confuses love with possession. Control is the foundation of his relationships, and any perceived betrayal is addressed with excessive revenge. His entire perspective is upended when Lily, whom he has a great deal of faith in and may perhaps love in his own way, betrays him. According to Victor, betrayal is the worst sin and its perpetrators need to suffer severe punishment. His incapacity to deal with emotional pain in a healthy way is reflected in his quick turn to threats of murder and retaliation. Rather than facing his hurt, he channels it into anger and lets it explode in a violent outburst. In addition to Lily's acts, this reaction is a result of every betrayal he has ever experienced, which has made his rage uncontrollable. Victor's innermost fears are triggered by Lily's betrayal. Victor is extremely paranoid and constantly waits for the people closest to him to turn against him, despite his assertive demeanor and commanding demeanor. He has a long history of betrayals, both imagined and real, and each one has scarred him. His greatest fears, that no one can be trusted, that love is ephemeral, and that the only thing that will keep him safe from more suffering is power, are validated by Lily's deceit. His threat to murder her is a desperate attempt to regain control, not just a way to vent his rage. He believes that he may regain his control and bring about equilibrium if he can annihilate the person who wronged him. Equally important is his pledge of vengeance against Cain, which shows that he must punish not only the traitor but also anyone connected to her. Cain becomes into a representation of everything Victor hates: competition, resistance, and the potential for someone else to seize what is rightfully his. Victor's breakdown psychological foundations show a man who is both dreadful and pathetic. His incapacity to deal with betrayal without using violence points to a deep emotional instability that may have its origins in a lifetime of power struggles or trauma. Those he cares about must submit completely to his possessive and conditional affection, if it can even be called that. He destroys instead of mourns when that subjection is withdrawn. This trend is a recurrent motif in his life and is not specific to his connection with Lily. The intensity of his reaction is what makes this moment so terrifying. Instead of merely removing Lily from his life or plotting against her in private, he bursts, threatening destruction and death. This implies that Lily had a special place in his heart, which makes her betrayal all the more tragic. Understanding how Victor and Lily interacted before the betrayal is essential to comprehending why her actions caused such a strong reaction. Their relationship is based on a complicated interaction between dependency, manipulation, and trust. Despite his brutal personality, Victor has occasionally displayed sincere care for Lily, possibly because he views her as unique among the people in his life, someone who gets him and supports him not only out of fear but also out of loyalty. He gives her a degree of privilege and trust in exchange that not many people get. In addition to being unfaithful, her betrayal is a personal slight and a rejection of the connection he felt they had. He reacts like a man who has been severely hurt, but since he lacks the emotional resources to deal with the pain in a healthy way, it turns into something hideous. His threats are a twisted way of saying how much she meant to him. If she had been unimportant, her betrayal would have been responded to with scorn rather than fury. It is impossible to overestimate the significance of treachery in Victor's life. The flaw in his otherwise impregnable armor is the one thing he cannot stand. He has experienced betrayal from lovers, family, and allies throughout his life, and each experience has strengthened his conviction that the world is fundamentally dangerous. His whole character, ruthless, domineering, and vindictive, is constructed as a safeguard against additional treachery. Not only does it enrage him, but it also tears him apart when Lily, whom he may have thought was above such disloyalty, proves him wrong. He wants to destroy the proof that he was mistaken and that his trust was misguided, which is why he is threatening to kill her. He may convince himself that she was always the adversary and that he was never really at risk if she is dead. His goal in getting revenge on Cain is similar. By eliminating everyone involved in Lily's treachery, he can change the story in his own mind so that he is the avenger rather than the victim. Victor's threats have ramifications that go well beyond the here and now. His vow to murder Lily and exact revenge on Cain starts a series of events that will have long-term effects. It serves as a wake-up call for Lily, highlighting the real risks of being caught up in Victor's world. He was always on the verge of using violence, and his love was never truly secure. Cain sees it as the start of a risky rivalry that will either compel him to give in or fight back in ways he may not be ready for. It is a point of no return for Victor. There is no turning back once the words are out of his mouth. He has exposed the worst aspects of himself, and his relationships will now be characterized as much by dread as by devotion. In addition, the scene calls into question Victor's relationship with power and control. Dominance and the conviction that he can control others are the foundations of his entire identity. That illusion is destroyed by Lily's betrayal, which demonstrates that even his closest friends and family can oppose him. In an effort to remind himself and Lily that he still has the upper hand, he reacted violently. However, the truth is that his explosion shows that he is not in control of his emotions, the circumstance, or Lily in particular. Victor is now lacking in patience, strategy, and restraint, qualities that are necessary for true authority. He is an insane man who lashes out because he finds the idea of being helpless intolerable. Victor's collapse is a significant turning point in the story's larger plot. It makes other characters re-evaluate their interactions with him and consider whether the continual fear of his rage justifies his protection. It also reveals how flimsy his kingdom is. Despite his wealth and power, he is ultimately subject to his own feelings. An inability to manage one's anger makes a man vulnerable to manipulation, outwitting, and eventual destruction. Although his threats against Lily and Cain are meant to frighten, they also expose his vulnerabilities, providing his adversaries with the means to defeat him. In the end, Victor's response to Lily's treachery serves as an example of the destructive power of unbridled emotion. His love, if it can be called love, is poisonous. It offers only conditional shelter and demands complete devotion. He reacts with destruction rather than remorse or grief when such loyalty is betrayed. He has passed a moral line from which there is no way back, and his threats are not empty, they are vows. Whether he keeps his word or not, the harm is already done. The relationships that had characterized his environment are irrevocably changed, trust is betrayed, and terror takes hold. Ultimately, Victor's insanity is about him, the futility of a life based on power and retaliation, and the unavoidable breakdown that occurs when that control is lost. It is not simply about Lily or Cain.